Hey everybody, welcome back to FPA Live. I'm Ben Lewis from FPA, and it's great to have you all join us today. It's really exciting day for me because it's not every day you get to have a conversation with the New York Times bestselling author. Well, today I get to have a conversation with a five-time New York Times bestselling author. So let me go ahead and bring him in. He's going to look pretty familiar to anyone who's read any of his books, but this is Daniel Pink. And let me do a quick introduction for you, Daniel. So, as I said before, five-time New York Times bestselling author. Your latest book is The Power of Regret, which is actually the basis of your closing keynote presentation at FPA Annual Conference in September in Columbus. Your other books are A Whole New Mind, When, Drive, To Sell is Human. And obviously, your books have won multiple awards, been translated into numerous languages. I think it's like 46 languages, and have sold millions of copies. So, Dan, thanks so much for joining us today.
A pleasure to be with you.
It's great to have you. And so, again, this is just going to be a quick conversation for everyone to kind of get to know who you are a little bit. I mean, obviously, you're going to be pretty familiar for a lot of the people who are going to be tuning in today. But I wanted to start with a little bit of your background because I was obviously doing my homework and learning more about Dan Pink. And obviously, look, you're renowned for your work in social science. You've hosted a National Geographic Channel show on the subject. What I really found interesting, because I'm a bit of a political junkie myself, but you have this background as a chief speechwriter for Al Gore. I mean, I'm really interested in learning more about kind of your background and how it translated into you kind of becoming this world-renowned New York Times best-selling author.
Well, I mean, I think it all goes back to the fact that I grew up in Columbus, Ohio, where you're hosting your conference. All roads lead to Central Ohio. So no,
That's York City, right?
I wish I had a better answer for you, Ben. I think all of us in our lives are trying to figure out who we are and what we do best and how we can contribute to the world. And for me, that answer has changed over time. I went to college. I went to law school. I realized in law school that I couldn't be a lawyer, and so I ended up working in politics. I worked in politics for a while in a kind of a half-ass way. Became a speechwriter. I did that for a while. I enjoyed it, but I also decided I didn't want to work in politics the rest of my life. And so what I really wanted to do was do my own writing, write under my own byline. Mm-hmm. And so I decided to try that, see if it would work. And that was maybe 20 plus years ago. And my strategy, such as it is simply to follow my own curiosity, like work my ass off, but follow my own curiosity. And what I was curious about is ultimately deep down is kind of what makes us tick. Who are we? How do we lead our lives? How can we lead our lives a little bit better? How can we do even better at this part of our lives, work, where we're spending over half of our waking hours? And so that's the great strategy. But as I said, it all goes back to Columbus, Ohio.
And any favorite haunts that you have in Columbus that you recommend people check out when they're there for the conference?
Actually, the conference is going to be right across the street from a place called North Market, which is kind of a big food hall. And there's some really, really good places there. There's a really good, I can't think of the name of it. There's a really good on the second floor, a really good fried chicken place.
I've been there.
Yeah, it's very good. Very good fried chicken place on the second floor. So I recommend that. And then there's a place on the first floor, a Polish food that has like some really good pierogies. And there's a coffee place too. It's very good coffee. I'm sorry I can't think of the names of these vendors, but just walk around North Market, ladies and gentlemen. Get some chicken have a pierogi to sort of whet your appetite. Go upstairs, have some fried chicken. Come down. You're going to be so drowsy after a pierogi and a fried chicken. Get some coffee to perk yourself up.
And then, of course, you got to stop and get Jenny's ice cream after.
Jenny's ice cream is a big win. Yeah, I really like Jenny's ice cream.
Yeah. So now, I mean, to get back to business here. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about Power of Regret.
Yes.
Because obviously, again, that's going to be the basis of your closing keynote presentation. And I mean, I find the book fascinating. I mean, flipping the old axiom on its head of no regrets.
Yeah.
It's really counterintuitive for everyone because it's part of songs and books have been written. I mean, I
Exactly.
maybe, We're the Millers, when the kid has the no regrets tattooed, it's spelled
Yeah.
wrong,
Yeah.
but no
No regrets. Yeah.
no regrets. That's it. So at what point, how did you determine this was something that merited deeper exploration?
Well, I mean, it goes back to what I was saying before a little bit, Ben, is that it was something that I was curious about. And I became curious about regret, um, I think, at a different stage in my life. I would never have written a book about regret in my 30s. In my 50s, it felt somewhat inevitable because I had, in my 30s, I didn't have enough mileage on me. But for someone in their 50s, recognizing, as daunting as it might sound, that probably half of your life is behind you rather than ahead. When you look backward, like all people, there were things that I wish I had done. There were things I wish I hadn't done. And as I came to kind of reckon with that myself and talk about it with other people, I found that there was an appetite out there for a
Mm-hmm.
discussion of this topic. And what I discovered in doing the research, in some of my own research, of some big surveys that I did on my own, a big collection tool of regrets from all
Mm-hmm.
over the world, but also looking at 50, 60 years of science in social psychology and in economics, but also very importantly in neuroscience and cognitive science, is that everybody has regrets. This emotion is ubiquitous in the human experience, and the reason for its ubiquity, I think, is that it's useful if you treat it right. And here's the
Right.
big problem: we haven't been treating it right. And so we have this idea that you should say you have no regrets, that the secret to a life well lived is to be positive all the time, never be negative, to always look forward and never look back. And that's wrong. That's bad advice. And so what I wanted to try to do, based on the research in this book, is recalibrate people's understanding of regret and show people what regret reveals about a life well lived, and how we can take our existing and inevitable regrets and transform them into something that can help us move forward.
So let's talk a bit about that survey, because I think I saw it's like up to like 19,000 regrets.
We're even above there. I did two surveys for this book. One was a big public opinion survey where I asked.
Right.
We had the largest public opinion survey ever conducted on American attitudes about regret. We got some interesting insights in that. Not as many as I expected. And then we did something called the World Regret Survey, where we just asked people around the world to submit their largest regret. And we now have a database of 26,000 regrets from people in
Wow.
134 countries. And that proved to be super interesting.
So yeah, so in your research, what you've identified is the four types of regrets.
Yeah.
So foundational, boldness, moral, and connection.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, I don't want to scoop your presentation at the conference, because I know this is going to probably be part of that. But can you kind of quickly touch on what
Yeah.
these four types of
Sure
regrets
thing.
are?
So foundation regrets are, and I think they're all quite relevant to financial planners. The foundation regrets are small decisions people make early that accumulate to terrible consequences later on. And a classic one would be, I spent too much and saved too little, and now I'm broke. It's basically the foundation regrets are another testament to the power of compounding interest, of compounding in general, not only interest in monetary sense, but just compounding in general. Boldness regrets are, if only I'd taken the shot, only taken the chance. We have overwhelming evidence, both in my stuff, but also in existing research, showing that that what people much more regret what they didn't do than what they did do. That regrets of inaction overwhelm regrets of action. And one of the biggest regrets of inaction is not being bold enough. So it's things like, I didn't speak up when I had a chance. I didn't start a business when I had a chance. I didn't travel. I didn't ask somebody out on a date. More regrets, if only I'd done the right thing. These are people who we have in the database of world regrets. A lot of regrets about infidelity, a lot of regrets about bullying. So I mistreated somebody, typically. And then connection regrets are about relationships. If only I'd reached out. And these are about relationships that were intact but come apart, and people want to do something, but they don't. And sometimes it's too late. And so, what's really amazing to me about this collection of these now 26,000 regrets is how similar they are across the world. And I think that tells us something about the human condition.
So, I mean, I was watching I think it was I think it was a TED talk. I can't remember where I was seeing it, but you said in there that these regrets operate like a photographic negative of
Yes.
the good life. How is that?
Well, here's the thing. This is something that I didn't realize when I started the research, but
Hmm.
I might it it gave me it's something that I discovered along the way through, and it ended up being one of the most profound insights that I encountered, which is that um, when people tell you what they regret the most, they're telling you what they value the most, and that's something that I didn't understand going in. And so what it means is this: that if a typical person is making all kinds of decisions every single day,
Hmm.
dozens, hundreds, perhaps decisions every single day. Most of them they don't remember the next day. Okay, the decisions, Ben, that you made on Monday, you probably made let's say you made 130 decisions on Monday. You and I are talking on a Wednesday.
Hmm.
You probably don't remember 129 of them.
Nope.
And you know what I mean? So and that's okay. That's like we need, that's functional. But there's certain decisions or indecisions from a year ago or 5 years ago or 20 years ago that not only do we remember them, but they bug us. That's telling you something. That's a very strong signal. And and so these regrets are telling us what we want out of life. And what we want out of life, I think, is a stable foundation. That's foundation regrets. We want a chance to learn and grow. That's boldness regrets. We want goodness, that is truth and
Hmm.
justice and morality, and that's moral regrets. And we want love, which is our connection regrets. And so this emotion that we sometimes try to avoid, or at least we've been told to avoid. Don't be negative. Always look forward. This emotion is revealing. It's telling us something. This emotion is, I think, the most instructive emotion we have. It, if we treat it right, not ignoring it, not wallowing in it, but use it as information, it can point the way to a life well lived.
That's great. And so I do want to talk about your presentation at the FPA Annual Conference. Again, everybody, we're talking to Daniel Pink, five-time best-selling author of Drive and Power of Regret and so on. And Dan is going to be our closing keynote speaker at FPA Annual Conference in his hometown of Columbus, Ohio, September 18th through the 20th. So obviously your session again is going to be largely focused on the power of regret. Um, and so I don't know, can you, again, I don't want you to scoop your presentation, but if you can kind of give everyone kind of a sense as to kind of, what you're going to be sharing during that, what you are
Well,
kind of.
I'm gonna be talking about I'm gonna be talking about sort of change people's attitude about regret by showing them what regret does for us in a much more granular level, and also going into a little greater depth on these four core regrets, what they reveal about the human condition, but also what they teach us about leading our own lives and also leading others. And then I also think that these four core regrets are is monumentally important for financial planners. That if financial planners get a handle on not only this broad emotion of regret, but on the sorts of things that people regret, they can help the people they're serving avoid those regrets in the future, and recognize what decisions matter and what decisions don't. What's more, I'll probably be talking about some ways to take an individual regret that you have and transform it into something that can help you make progress. So there's a huge amount of really, really interesting material. And what I like about this topic is that it really sits at the juncture of our personal and professional lives. You can learn stuff from this material to become a better financial planner. You can learn stuff to become a better leader, but you can also learn stuff to lead your life differently, to think
Sure.
about your life differently, to think about your future differently.
So you're talking about the role of financial planners and what financial planning is all about. And financial planning at its core is a very human centric
Absolutely.
type of profession, right? So it stands to reason that the lessons that you hope to impart on the financial planners are things that they can actually maybe even potentially work with their clients
Exactly.
on facing directly. So
A hundred
excellent.
percent. I mean, I think the financial planners are in a really interesting spot because they can, if they learn some of these ways to turn this negative emotion of regret into a positive force to make progress, they can
Mhm.
they can deploy that in their own lives, but they can also coach their clients on how to do that. So I think they're financial planners at a really, really interesting sort of point where they have a foot in two different worlds, and they can actually do a lot of good.
That's excellent. So before we go, I just want you to tell everyone, like, how can they follow you and even subscribe? I know you have your Pink Report, which is your newsletter.
I've got a newsletter. The best thing to do is just go to my website, danpink.com. There's also, I got a lot of stuff. So you can go to danpink.com. If we have a new YouTube channel called Daniel Pink TV. There's a newsletter that you can find out about at danpink.com. So any of those kinds of things. A quick Google search will find some stuff too. So it's pretty easy to find me because not many people have my name.
Well, I'm really thrilled that you took the opportunity to actually sit down and have this conversation today. I'm really looking forward to seeing you in September in Columbus at FPA Annual Conference. So thanks so much for taking some time today, Dan.
A pleasure. Thanks for having me, Ben.
I appreciate it. And just a reminder for everybody that if you want to join Dan Pink at FPA Annual Conference, you just have to go to fpaannual.org, that little registration QR code in the upper corner of your screen will take you right to the registration page, so you can just very easily join us in Columbus. And I also want to remind everybody that all of our FPA Live conversations are available to you at fpahub.org. That's fpahub.org. You can see our conversation on demand with Dan Pink, as well as Jeff Bush and many other folks who have been joining us for these conversations. And in the meantime, we'll look forward to seeing you next time on FPA Live. Have a great day.